You know that feeling when everything seems perfect on the surface, but deep down, something just doesn't sit right? That was my life for the past 3 years. My name is Margaret, and I'm 58 years old. I spent 30 years building a successful accounting firm, raised my son Daniel alone after my husband passed away when Daniel was just 10, and I thought I'd done everything right. Daniel met Vanessa 4 years ago at some corporate event. She was beautiful, charming, and had this way of making everyone feel special. When Daniel introduced her to me, I wanted to love her. But there was something in her eyes, something calculating that made me uneasy. Still, I pushed those feelings aside. Daniel was happy, and that's all a mother wants, right? They got married 2 years ago in this extravagant wedding that felt more like a status symbol than a celebration. And who paid for half of it? Me. $50,000. Because Daniel looked at me with hopeful eyes and said, "Mom, this would mean the world to us." After the wedding, things changed. Vanessa slowly created distance between Daniel and me. Sunday dinners were missed. Phone calls became rare. I told myself it was normal. Newlyweds need space. But deep down, I knew I was being pushed out. Then came the real estate deal. 8 months ago, Daniel came to me with an incredible investment opportunity. He and Vanessa wanted to buy a house in an expensive neighborhood. There was just one problem. They needed a co-signer and wanted me to put down $150,000. Daniel held my hand and said, "Mom, this is our dream home. You'd practically be investing in your future grandchildren's home. How could I refuse?" So I liquidated investments, pulled from my retirement, and wrote the check. I co-signed the mortgage, becoming legally responsible for their debt. The paperwork was handled quickly, too quickly. Vanessa had everything organized, rushing me to sign before they'd lose the house. I barely read through anything. I signed. God help me, I signed everything. They invited me over once after moving in, then nothing. The distance grew wider, and I was left making mortgage payments on a house I'd never be welcomed into again, wondering where everything had gone so wrong. 3 months ago, Daniel called. His voice sounded strained, like he was reading from a script. "Vanessa and I want to have you for dinner this Friday." A proper family dinner. I should have been suspicious, but I was desperate for connection. I said yes immediately. Friday came. I bought expensive wine, dressed nicely, got my hair done. I told myself this was a new beginning. I arrived at 7 o'clock sharp. Vanessa answered in a designer dress, air-kissing my cheeks like we were strangers. "Margaret, come in." The house looked even better than before. New furniture, expensive art. I wondered how they'd afforded it all. Daniel came out wearing an apron, genuinely smiling. "Mom, I'm making your favorite, pot roast." We sat down in their formal dining room. The first few minutes were pleasant small talk. Then Vanessa shifted in her seat, exchanged a look with Daniel, and the temperature dropped. "Margaret, we wanted to talk about something important." "That's why we invited you," Vanessa began, her voice businesslike. "We've been doing financial planning, and we need to make changes. The house expenses are more than we anticipated." "We want to sell the house," Daniel said quietly. "We can make good profit in this market." "If that's what's best for your family," I started to say. "There's just one complication," Vanessa interrupted, her smile sharp now. "With you as co-signer and how the title is set up, it's legally messy. So here's what we're proposing. We'll sell the house, take the profits, and you can continue making the mortgage payments until it legally transfers. Just a formality." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. "You want to sell the house, keep all the profit, and have me keep paying the mortgage on a property I don't own and you don't live in?" "You're being dramatic, Mom," Daniel said. "This is just business. This is how real estate works." This isn't business, Daniel. This is your mother who supported you your entire life. Vanessa laughed, actually laughed. Don't be so emotional, Margaret. This is a simple financial transaction. A transaction? I'm your son's mother. I'm family. You're being selfish, Daniel shouted, slamming his hand on the table. This is about our future. You're always focused on yourself, on controlling everything. My own son had just called me selfish for not wanting to be financially destroyed. And then Vanessa stood up, picked up her wine glass, and threw it directly at me. The wine hit me square in the chest, soaking through my blouse, dripping everywhere, staining everything red. I sat there in shock, unable to believe what had just happened. That's what I think of your selfishness, Vanessa screamed. You act like we're asking you to die for us. Get out, Daniel said quietly. Not to Vanessa, to me. Mom, I think you should leave. I stood slowly, wine dripping from my clothes, hands shaking. I looked at my son and didn't recognize him. What you just proposed isn't a financial arrangement, I said steadily. It's theft, it's fraud, and throwing wine at me? That's assault. Don't be so dramatic, Vanessa scoffed. It was just wine. I'm leaving now, I continued. But this conversation isn't over. I walked out with my head held high. Neither of them tried to stop me. Daniel just stood there with his arm around Vanessa and watched his mother leave. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, shaking. The wine had started to dry, sticky and uncomfortable. I looked in the rearview mirror and barely recognized myself, defeated, humiliated, destroyed. And then something shifted. The shock faded, replaced by something cold and clear. Anger. The kind that sharpens your mind and turns pain into power. They thought I was a weak, sentimental old woman who'd accept anything because I was desperate for my son's love. They were wrong. I pulled out my phone and called Richard Morrison, one of the best real estate attorneys in the state. Richard, I need your help, I said calmly. I need you to review mortgage documents for me Monday morning, and I need to know how to make them regret ever thinking they could use me. I'll clear my Monday schedule, Richard said immediately. Bring everything. That night, I went through every file. Every document related to the house. I printed text messages and emails. I wrote down detailed timelines. And I discovered something interesting. When I'd agreed to co-sign and put down $150,000, Vanessa had been very specific about the paperwork structure. She'd insisted certain documents be filed in a particular way for tax purposes. But looking at the documents with clear eyes, I saw something else. The property title wasn't just in Daniel and Vanessa's names. Because of how everything was structured, I was listed as a partial owner. Vanessa had made a crucial mistake, and that mistake was about to cost them everything. Monday morning, I walked into Richard's office with determination that could cut steel. I told him everything, the wedding, the distance, the house, Friday night, the wine thrown at my chest. Richard listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back quietly. Margaret, I've known you 15 years. I've never seen you like this. I've never been betrayed like this, I replied simply. He reviewed the documents for 20 minutes. Finally, he looked up with something like excitement in his eyes. Margaret, do you know what you have here? A gold mine, he said, spreading documents across his desk. The property title lists you as a 25% owner. Not co-signer, owner. They can't sell without your explicit consent. My heart pounded. Explain. You own part of this house. Any sale requires all owners to agree. If they try selling without permission, it's invalid. He pulled out another document. Furthermore, as an owner making significant mortgage payments, you have legal right to occupy the property or demand rental payments from occupants. So they can't just sell and keep the profits? Not without your agreement. And here's the interesting part. Richard calculated numbers. The house purchased for $800,000 is now worth about $1.2 million. That's 400,000 profit. As a 25% owner who's been paying 60% of the mortgage, you're entitled to substantial compensation. What do? First, I send a legal notice denying permission for any sale, freezing their plans. Second, we file a partition action forcing the sale and distribution according to ownership. The court will consider who paid the mortgage, who contributed improvements, who lived rent-free. Third, we document the assault. While you won't press criminal charges, the civil documentation demonstrates hostile environment and influences the judge's decision. There's more, Richard continued. You've overpaid the mortgage by about $40,000 over 8 months. You're entitled to reimbursement with interest. In a partition action, that comes off the top before distribution. I felt vindicated tears, threatening. How long will this take? 6 months to a year, but they probably can't afford to fight long. If they're struggling with expenses, they can't afford prolonged legal battles. They'll likely try settling within 3 months. And if they don't? Richard's smile turned sharp. Then a judge forces the sale anyway. Either way, you get your money back, plus appreciation share, plus overpayment reimbursement. They get significantly less, and a legal judgment making future mortgages very difficult. I took a deep breath. Do it. Prepare everything. Margaret, once we start, there's no going back. This will destroy your relationship with Daniel, possibly permanently. I remembered Daniel's face when he told me to leave. Richard, that relationship was destroyed when he chose her manipulation over his mother's love. Send the papers. 3 days later, Daniel and Vanessa received the legal notice, and everything exploded. The phone started ringing at 6:30 in the morning. Daniel's name flashed repeatedly. I didn't answer. He called 7 times. Finally, a text came. Mom, we need to talk. This is insane. You can't do this to us. Call me. I didn't respond. Another text. Mom, please. Vanessa is freaking out. Our agent says we can't sell now. What are you doing? Still no response. Richard's instructions were clear. No direct communication. That evening, Vanessa called. I let it go to voicemail. Margaret, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is completely inappropriate. We invited you to discuss business, and you've turned it into some vendetta. You're being vindictive and petty, hurting your own son. Is that really who you want to be? Call me back so we can discuss this like adults. The audacity was breathtaking. I deleted the voicemail. A week later, I came home to find Vanessa's car in my driveway. She was on my porch. Margaret, we need to talk, she said, voice shaking. I have nothing to say to you. My lawyer has given you all information needed. Your lawyer is destroying our lives. We have buyers lined up. We had plans. Do you know how much stress you're causing? I stopped and looked at her. The designer clothes, manicured nails, all bought with money that wasn't really hers. You threw wine at me, I said quietly. You and my son tried to steal from me. You tried manipulating me into giving up hundreds of thousands while keeping me on the hook for a mortgage I'd never benefit from. And now you're crying about stress? It wasn't like that, Vanessa protested. You're twisting everything. I know exactly what you wanted, someone desperate enough for family connection that she'd let herself be used. I was that fool until you threw wine at me and my son told me to leave. It's not your house. You don't live there. You're just a name on paperwork. Actually, I said calmly, according to the property title, I'm a 25% owner, which means it's very much my house, and you structured it that way. You were so focused on getting my money that you made yourself vulnerable. Vanessa's face went white. That was... Daniel handled that. No, Vanessa, you handled it. My lawyer found your signature everywhere, your handwritten notes on filing instructions. You thought you were clever, but you made a huge, expensive mistake. This isn't over, Vanessa hissed. We'll fight this. A judge will see exactly what you are, a bitter, vindictive old woman punishing her son for being happy. I smiled coldly. We're already going to court. That's what partition action means. And when we get there, I'll have documents showing my contributions, evidence of your assault, and a compelling story about attempted fraud. Please, let's see what a judge thinks. She stormed to her car and peeled out, leaving tire marks. 2 weeks later, Daniel and Vanessa hired a lawyer named Bradley Chen. The war had officially begun. Settlement negotiations started 3 weeks later. It was my first time seeing Daniel and Vanessa since the dinner. Daniel looked exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. Vanessa was still perfectly dressed but brittle, like she might shatter. Their lawyer, Bradley Chen, immediately went on offense. Mrs. Collins, my clients offer $175,000, your original down payment plus $25,000 for overpayments, and you sign over all ownership rights. Richard shook his head subtly. That's not acceptable, Richard said smoothly. Mrs. Collins is entitled to 25% of current property value, approximately $1.2 million. That's $300,000. Plus reimbursement for overpayments of $42,000 with interest, plus compensation for emotional distress. Bradley scoffed. Emotional distress? Over a business disagreement? Over an assault, Richard corrected, sliding photos across the table. We have photographs of Mrs. Collins in wine-stained clothing taken immediately after, contemporaneous text to me describing the event, and witnesses who saw her condition. Vanessa's face flushed. That was an accident. Vanessa. Bradley cut her off sharply. Let me handle this. Silence filled the room. My clients cannot afford $300,000, Bradley finally said. That's not realistic. Then perhaps they should sell the house, Richard suggested pleasantly. Oh, wait, they can't, because Mrs. Collins hasn't given permission. Which brings us back to partition action. If we go to court, a judge forces the sale anyway. The only difference is your clients will lose tens of thousands in legal fees. Daniel looked at me then, really looked at me. Mom, please. We made a mistake. We shouldn't have handled things the way we did. But destroying us financially won't fix anything. Can't we work this out as family? There it was. The manipulation I'd fallen for so many times. Daniel, I said quietly, you stopped treating me like family when you and Vanessa decided to use me as a bank, when you watched your wife throw wine at me and told me to leave, when you tried to steal from me. So no, we can't work this out as family, but we can work this out as the business transaction you claimed it was. His face crumbled. Vanessa wasn't restrained. This is ridiculous. You're destroying your relationship with your son over money? No, Vanessa. You and Daniel destroyed our relationship when you tried to defraud me. I'm just protecting myself. There's a difference. The meeting ended without settlement. Over 3 months, there were 4 more meetings, each more tense. Daniel and Vanessa's financial situation deteriorated. Lawsuit stress, inability to sell, mounting legal fees. Finally, Richard dropped the nuclear option. We're moving forward with forced sale, he announced. Mrs. Collins will settle for $275,000 plus full mortgage reimbursement with interest. Total $320,000. In exchange, she agrees to immediate sale with proceeds distributed per our agreement. This is the final offer. Reject it, we file for forced partition next week, and you'll end up with even less. Bradley looked at his clients. Vanessa was pale, hands clenched. Daniel looked defeated. Can we have a moment? Bradley asked. 15 minutes later, they accepted. With one condition, Bradley added stiffly. My clients want Mrs. Collins to agree to no contact after this. No attempts to reach out, no family events, nothing. The words hurt more than expected. Daniel wouldn't even look at me as his lawyer demanded I stay away permanently. That's fine, I said steadily. I have no desire to maintain contact with people who used and betrayed me, family or not. The house sold within 3 weeks. When everything finalized, I received $320,000. I'd put in $150,000 plus $50,000 in mortgage payments. I'd recovered all of it, plus $120,000. Daniel and Vanessa, after paying the mortgage, legal fees, and my settlement, walked away with about $180,000. Decent, but nowhere near the $400,000 profit they'd planned, while leaving me with nothing. 3 months after settlement, my friend Patricia revealed something shocking. She showed me screenshots from a year-old group chat. Vanessa had written, "Daniel's mom is so easy to manipulate. Just mention family and grandkids and she'll do anything. We're definitely getting that house." Daniel replied, "I feel bad about using my mom, but Vanessa's right. She's got all this money just sitting there. And we need it more. She'll be fine." Vanessa again, "Don't feel bad. She's lived her life. This is our time. Once we have the house, we can phase her out. We won't need her anymore." Daniel, "Yeah, you're right. It's business, not personal." I stared at the messages, feeling like a knife twisted in my chest. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned, calculated. They'd discussed manipulating me, using me, discarding me like it was nothing. "Patricia, how long have you known?" 6 months. "My daughter showed me right after you bought the house. But I didn't know how to tell you. Then everything happened, and I realized you needed to know the truth. So you'd understand that fighting back was absolutely the right choice." That night, I let myself grieve. Not for the money, but for the relationship I thought I had with my son. I grieved for the little boy who used to say, "I love you" to the moon and back, for the teenager who defended me against bullies, for the young man who promised to always take care of me. All those versions of Daniel were gone, and I realized I'd done everything right. I hadn't overreacted. I'd simply refused to be a victim, and that was the most powerful choice I could have made. 6 months later, I ran into Daniel at the grocery store. "Mom," he said quietly. We stood there across a produce display. "Hi, Daniel. I wasn't sure if you'd talk to me. The settlement included no contact. You requested that, remember?" He flinched. "I know. That was Vanessa's idea. Most of it was her ideas, actually." "Most, but not all," I pointed out. "You made choices, too." He nodded. "You're right. And I need to tell you, Vanessa and I are getting divorced." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be. Once the money situation hit, once the stress came, she became someone I didn't recognize, or maybe she always was that person." He looked up. "Mom, I was an idiot. I was cruel and greedy. I let her convince me that using you was okay. I want to apologize. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. Truly sorry." I studied his face, looking for manipulation. All I saw was genuine remorse. "Words are easy, Daniel. Vanessa apologized too, remember?" "I know. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just asking you to know that I recognize what I did was unforgivable." "If it's unforgivable, why apologize?" He smiled sadly. "Because you deserved better. And even if you never forgive me, you should know that your son, the real person underneath all the greed, he's ashamed. He's heartbroken. And he wishes he could make different choices." "What are you doing now?" "Renting a small apartment, working as a consultant, in therapy, trying to figure out who I am without Vanessa's influence." "That's good. That's a start." "Is there any chance that someday we could try again?" I thought carefully. "Maybe, but it would take time. Years of consistent proof that you've changed, that you understand boundaries and respect." "I understand." and I'll wait however long it takes. Don't wait for me, Daniel. Live your life. Become the person you should be. And if our paths cross again and you've genuinely changed, we'll see what's possible. He pulled out a check. This is $20,000. All I can afford now, but it's part of what I owe you. Not legally, morally. I'm going to pay you back, every penny, even if it takes 20 years. I looked at the check. Keep it. Use it for therapy. Use it to build a better life. When you've become the man you should be, if you still want to make amends, we'll talk then. His face crumpled. Thank you. Goodbye, Daniel. I hope you find what you're looking for. I walked away and didn't look back. It wasn't cruelty, it was self-preservation. Healing happens in stages, and I needed more time. It's been 2 years since that terrible dinner. 2 years since I stood up and refused to be used. Daniel and I have occasional contact, brief emails, a birthday call. He's still in therapy, rebuilding his career. We're not close, but we're cordial. He sent a handwritten letter months ago, detailing everything he learned about manipulation, codependency, his own character flaws. But, and this was important, he didn't blame everything on Vanessa. He took responsibility. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he wrote. I just want you to know the work I'm doing isn't about winning you back. It's about becoming someone who deserves to call you his mother. I cried reading that letter, not from sadness, but from complicated grief and pride and hope. But I didn't rush to reconciliation. Real change takes years. Words are cheap. It's sustained action that matters. I also learned I don't need Daniel to complete my life. For so long, I'd defined myself as his mother. When he betrayed me, it felt like losing my identity. But building a new life showed me I'm more than someone's mother. I'm Margaret. I'm a businesswoman. A volunteer helping women escape financial abuse. A partner to Robert. A friend. A survivor. Maybe that's the real lesson. It's not just about standing up to people who hurt you. It's discovering you're whole and complete on your own. Your worth isn't determined by how much you sacrifice. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Sometimes family means knowing when to walk away. Sometimes the most important person you can save is yourself. If you're in a situation where family is using you, manipulating you, taking advantage, hear this. It's okay to protect yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to enforce boundaries, even if people call you selfish. Real family doesn't exploit. Real love doesn't manipulate. I spent years being the person who sacrificed, who gave, who put everyone first. Where did it get me? Used, betrayed, nearly destroyed by my own son. But when I stood up, when I refused to be a victim, when I fought for justice, that's when I found peace. Not because of the money, but because I proved to myself that I matter, that my dignity matters, that I'm worth protecting. Choose yourself. If people genuinely love you, they'll respect your boundaries. If they call you selfish for refusing to be used, they've shown their true colors, and you're better off without them. You don't owe anyone your destruction, not even family. Especially not family. Stand up, fight back, protect yourself. You deserve better, and you're stronger than you know.